All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jessica Payne Live. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. Hope everyone is doing well. I want to jump right into today's show, but first things first, if you are joining me for the very first time, thank you. Welcome. We have an exciting guest. If you're watching me on the replay, maybe you know her. Joining me today is none other than Bridgetti Lim Banda. So come on the screen here, Bridgetti. And if you don't mind, I'd love to give a very top line intro to who you are, just in case there are a few folks who happen to not know. If any of you have been paying attention to the water crisis here in Los Angeles and California, we certainly have a drought. There's this thing called global warming and climate change happening. And but if you picked up a copy of USA Today about a week or so ago, or any piece of media, you might have seen the headline, Cape Town, South Africa might be the first city to run out of water. So today I have an amazing guest, Bridgetti. You're joining me from Cape Town, from South Africa, and we actually met several, I would say, months ago, just because we're live streamers. But you're here to talk today about your Facebook page, the Cape Town water crisis, and your personal experience with raising awareness of the drought. So for those of you who don't know, this is Bridgetti. She's a live streamer. She runs her own business. And of course, you're kind of a VIP when it comes to raising the dialogue. So I'm honored to have you on the show, and welcome.
Jessica, it's an absolute privilege. It's lovely being on screen with you. So thank you for inviting me. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Steve. Looks like our friend Steven is watching. Hey, Steven, and Nancy as well. So big shout outs to you. So this topic, I guess the perfect question would be just kind of knowing you and kind of watching the story grow and grow. And now it's, as soon as I saw that copy of that USA Today headline, and then I heard BBC's picking it, I was like, things are rolling. For those folks who might not know that what's going on, can you catch us up in a top line summary of how bad is the water crisis in Cape Town, and maybe what have the last 10 days or so been like? Because I know media are calling you and you have this live show, and now it seems like everyone is kind of picking up the phone and wanting to talk to you, and you're kind of playing a key role in terms of going from concerned citizen to now activist. Is that right?
You know, the last 10 days, I'd say, has been pretty wild in Cape Town. Things have escalated quite radically. There's been a lot of changes. Sometimes, you know, we kind of tend to think we're going to hit a crisis, but the reality is the crisis is already here. It's already happening. We're in the thick of it. It's different. I'm still trying to, you know, I've had months to get used to this, and I get a sense a lot of people didn't really expect the situation to escalate to the level that it has escalated at the moment. It's caught a lot of people unaware, especially because, you know, Cape Town had a slogan, a well-run city will not run out of water. And so that slogan kind of grew on us. And I think people trusted that slogan. And the fact that we are where we are now was kind of a rude awakening. Because it was about, you know, 2 weeks ago when our mayor advised that the day zero, as we refer to it, is now going to become a reality. There's a high probability of it becoming a reality. And what day zero means is that damage 13.5%. They're currently at 26%. When it reaches 13.5%, it essentially means that the city of Cape Town will turn off the taps in the suburbs. In other words, we will not have any water. What they aim to do is they will keep it on in the informal housing areas, because those people they've lived with hardship all their lives. This is a new challenge to us in the suburbs, but people who've lived in informal housing all their life, they've always lived under what we call day zero conditions. In other words, they've already been collecting their water at a standpipe. They already wash out of a basin, which we're doing now. they have, they don't have washing machines, they don't have swimming pools, they don't have dishwashing machines. So they're not high consumers of water the way that we are in the suburbs. So therefore, the water will be turned off in the suburbs, and what the city will do is they will try and keep the economy going by keeping the main central business districts online. And that's an attempt to not allow the economy to collapse, because that would be more of a catastrophe for us. So we want to keep our economy going. We want to try and keep tourism going. Right now, for example, we've got a very huge international cycling tour that's happening. It's called the August Cycle Tour. Strangely enough, there's a weird story. I mean, last year, for the very first time in its entire history, now you must know that we have, I don't know, in the range of 40,000 cyclists from all over the globe descending upon Cape Town.
Right.
And last year was kind of freakish, because on the day of the race, we had the most incredible wind, like of tornado that we've never had before. And for the first time in its history, they had to cancel the cycle tour for the safety of the cyclists.
Wow.
And of course, now, this year, we've got the drought. So, a lot of people are kind of saying, well, we should cancel it. We've got the Two Oceans race coming up as well. And a lot of people are thinking we should cancel it. And yes, that may be our first explanation, because we're thinking, these people are coming in here and they're going to be using our water. That's the first thing that comes to mind. But there's a lot of stuff that's at play here. We can't afford for our tourism to go down, or the economy to go down, or the agriculture to go down, because those sectors employ so many people. And if we allow the tourism to collapse, for example, we are going to put so many families into poverty. And to do that, we have to find a way of carrying on. We need money for water augmentation, great source of income. So it wouldn't be the cause of wisdom, even though people think so. In fact, I'm going to be doing an interview shortly with the organizers of the August Cycle Tour. They've done some ingenious things to ensure that the impact on our water is not going to be too significant at all. So that is going to go ahead. But as for the feeling generally, I've lived in Cape Town all my life. And I never in my life get to the point where we are today, where our relationship with water has to completely change. Right. Everything we've done before is now different. I mean, to give you an example of what I do, and that's indicative of what I wash in a little hand basin 3 days, and then on the fourth day I'll have a quick 2-minute shower so I can wash my hair. We've got buckets in the toilet, we've got buckets in the shower. Every little tap that you've got anywhere has got a basin underneath it, so you can catch the water and reuse it. We don't flush our toilets, for example, because we only use recycled water. And up until now, we have had an allowance of 87 liters per person per day. And as from the 1st of February, that's going to come down to 50 liters per person per day. I think I'm under correction. I think that's something like 6 gallons. I'm not sure. I speak under correction. But that's our daily allowance. So you have to do everything with that. And a lot of people are still not understanding, for example, when it says 50 liters per person per day, it doesn't mean 50 liters at home, 50 liters at the office, and 50 liters wherever else you are. It's cumulative. So wherever you are, that is the maximum that you are allowed. And then basically it means that we will be rushing day 0 along, the day when they turn the taps off. But if we can get it down, we can prolong that. And the unfortunate thing is that only 50% currently of the population is sticking to those requirements.
Right.
And there's 2 reasons why people don't stick to the requirements.
Why is that?
On the one hand, we have people who don't believe that the drought is real. We've
Right.
got people who don't understand the relationship between an empty dam and there's still tap and water in the tap. So, there can't be a drought. People will say, well, the trees are still green, can't be a drought. Not real.
And the fact that you live near so much water. I mean, here in California, we can literally see the ocean from our doorstep,
Same
but we're
thing.
technically in a drought. Right.
Same thing here. And then on the other hand, you've got a section of the population of the more wealthy people. And, they may have the stance, well, I've got money to throw at it. Whatever fines the city council may throw my way, I'll just pay the fine. And that's very unfortunate because no amount of fines is going to give us water in the dam.
Right.
Right. Throwing money at the problem isn't going to fix it.
Right.
And that's a little sad. Also, there's so much. I know they've stepped up education to a large extent recently, and yet there is such a need. There's still so many people who don't really understand what's going on. They don't understand the dynamics of how our water resources are managed. And as you said, some people will say, it's impossible to have a drought. We are surrounded by oceans. And so people need to understand that being surrounded by ocean doesn't necessarily mean that you can have drinking water. So that is one of the huge misconceptions that is currently going about.
It's interesting because you're talking about, and here's a great example of it's a global issue. You're a Cape Townian, I'm an Angelino, yet we're, I think anyone in a major city, especially in, I don't know if Cape Town is technically a coastal desert, but California is, and Los Angeles is. And it's been interesting. We've been kind of sharing a very similar journey to you. I remember growing up as a young girl, and we would have Ricky the Raindrop coloring books because we were even conserving water back then. And so they would bring in speakers, and they would talk about, turning the tap off. And this was, 80s and 90s. But I remember coloring in the coloring book and following the steps to learn about water conservation before I even really knew what it was. But I knew growing up here, it's always been an issue. And that kind of went away. And now it's sort of back. And we've had an El Nino in between, but, and have certainly fires. But what struck me is, and I want to remind folks, it's sort of like, you demonstrate something to me that's very, very powerful. I should mention, you don't work for the government, local government. You're not a desalination or a water professional expert. You decided to sort of, out of your own concern, right, take this on. And it sounds like through leveraging your own time, your own research, your own outreach, using tools like social media, it's been really interesting to see how people are coming to you now for expertise, or at least because you have a grasp of the situation. Can you share what that's been like? Because, and maybe start with what originally got you concerned, because as a citizen, and what fired you up to kind of go beyond just casual research or paying fines?
So here's my story. I've always had a keen interest in social projects, but I suffer from chronic pain. I have chronic back pain and I have fibromyalgia, and it got so bad that I had to stop activities. I literally became a recluse at home. I didn't want to leave home. I needed to be in my comfort zone so that I could deal with my pain. And so I don't go out very much. And then I started to sink into depression, which is a natural progression when you deal with pain on a constant basis. Anyone who deals with long-term pain or chronic pain of any kind will tell you that depression goes hand in hand. And I needed to find a way of helping myself out of this pit that I'd allow myself to sink into. And when I realized that I could actually use live streaming to engage with people in the outside world again, I realized this was an avenue that I could immerse myself into. And And so I started looking seriously at live streaming again. I used to use Blab, which unceremoniously ended at some point, and I stopped live streaming. So when Facebook Live came about and I learned that this is an avenue that I could use again, I in it. And I must say, in the beginning, it wasn't very easy. In a point where I was very, very low, my self-confidence. So I had to learn how to become confident on camera again. And once I'd gained my confidence and I started watching how the story of the water crisis was starting to unfold, I realized that having this tool of live streaming gave me a unique opportunity to engage with the outside world. And why this opportunity was unique is because live streaming is very different to media, to traditional media like television. Television is one-way media. In other words, whoever is using that medium is giving information to its audience, but there's no way to connect with the audience. And I realized when it came to something like a crisis, as with our water crisis, engagement with people on the ground would be key. It would be important. That sense of compassion and people being able to feel that they are heard and that they are understood would be key to the success of any campaign of awareness. And so I decided that I would take it upon myself to start this. And initially, because live streaming was very new here, it took a long time for people to warm up to the concept of live. But as things progressed and people wanted to learn more, and I eventually hooked up with some, I live stream with a water strategist who's been trained in water as a security risk, for example. I live stream with a groundwater specialist, and various other people who are professionals in their field, even in desalination. I must tell you, in the last couple of months, I have learned so much.
I bet.
It has been an amazing journey. I have learned things I would never have known about water. And now that I have that information, it gives me great joy to be able to share that with others, and help people appreciate that we now need to have a new relationship with water. I certainly have changed. My outlook of water has completely changed. I don't think I would ever be able to waste a drop of water again. It's become a very, very precious resource.
And that's something important to point out, the fact that you've gone through your own journey. I think, and that's what I find inspiring, because it's one thing we all know some people who are always sort of born to lead causes, and for whatever reason, we want to participate, and sometimes we just don't know where to start. And I think you shed a lot of light on how powerful, and how your own journey can evolve in terms of discovering something that's an issue, making that conscious choice that it actually means a little bit something more to you. And then it sounded like you just organically started with your own research, kind of became your own expert. You became your own expert. That wasn't to be I'm sure when you started out, you weren't thinking, I want to be on BBC. It was more like, this is an issue I care about. I have time and the resources to find out more. And it just sort of organically grew. And it sounds like your own journey actually evolved, where now you are conserving water, even though that it might have been just a concern at first. Now it sounds like you've changed your habits.
Yes, I have. Totally. I used to do laundry every single day.
Right.
That has changed, so now, I don't work outside of the home, and I've got a studio at home. So I wear my clothes several times before it goes into the laundry. Obviously, things like underwear you want to change every day, but everything else you can re-wear it several times before you really need to wash it. I used to change my bed sheets every single day. I used to change my duvet cover twice a week. That doesn't happen any longer.
Right.
Because water's become so precious, we can't afford to do laundry every single day. So now I have a laundry day once a week. And what happens with that water is I've taken the extension that takes the water into the drain. I've taken that out of the wall. All that every single drop gets reused. It gets reused first. I can wash the floor with it. Enjoy it, and it gets used in the toilets because we no longer use potable water in the toilets. We don't flush with clean water.
Right.
So every drop of water gets recycled. So in the shower, I have a bucket. So when we do have a 2-minute shower, even that water is bought for recycling purposes. When we wash our hands in the kitchen, I no longer use my dishwasher because it uses too much water. Hand washing takes a considerable less amount of water. And these are things one takes for granted. You do not realize how much water your washing machine uses or your dishwasher uses because it goes down the drain. You don't see it. You don't have a relationship with that volume of water. But when you do things yourself, you do it manually, and you can actually see that water going into a container, you kind of realize, wow, I was wasting that much water before.
Mm-hmm.
So you become very, very conscious. It's a weird thing, actually. I was telling something before, if you heard water running, the sound of water has always had you stream running to you.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, because of our situation, when you hear water running, it almost fills you with fear because you're like, why is the water running? Who's wasting water?
Who's wasting water? Right. Yeah. I think of my grandparents, or it's sort of like, is the heat on? Is the stove burning? Sort of the Great Depression generation where sort of everything was watched. Bridgetti, what can we do to conserve water? There are a few just tips, even if we're not, there are plenty areas, for example, here in the United States that are not facing any sort of water shortage, and around the world. But I think we can all do our part. Do you have maybe one or two things every single one of us can think about doing going forward just to kind of follow your lead, but considering this is a growing global issue? Are there one or two things we can all do to help conserve water?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In your kitchen sink, have a bowl when you're rinsing your vegetables, when you're washing your hands, and you do that several times a day. And you can apply this both in the office and at home. So if you're going into the kitchen and rinsing a mug or whatever, have a bowl. You can catch that water. You'll be amazed how much you have it by the end of the day. And you can put that onto the plants. Reuse that water. Don't throw it away. Also, when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, generally people kind of have the tap running while they're brushing their teeth away. Close the tap. Don't let the water run. You'll be amazed how much water you waste just brushing your teeth, for example. And then, another thing, I think somehow we grew up with this idea we need to constantly shower 2-3 times a day and, that we're dirty. The truth is you're actually doing your skin a real good favor by not using chemicals and stuff on your skin so often. We don't really need to shower every day. We can just do a quick wash and you don't smell. I've not come across a single person who walks around that's smelly simply because they don't have a shower every day.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like it's completely doable. It's interesting you say about shower. There's a growing conversation, I think, with people not now realizing that you certainly don't even have to wash your hair every day. And a lot of conspiracy theories are like, oh, that was, so-and-so shampoo company wanting us to feel like we need to wash our hair every day when really the natural oils are better. So you're saying, so I just want to highlight those two tips because I think anyone can take it away. in your kitchen sink, put a big bowl in there to capture the water, and at the end of the day, use it to water your plants. I do that, actually. I have a, as those of you know, Lady is my pet cat. I change her water bowl almost every day, but I don't dump the water out. I actually use that to water my plants. So I'm going to actually follow your lead and step it up, because I actually could be doing what you're doing. So I'm going to put a big bowl in my sink to catch the water and use that to water my plants. And the next one is, which I remember learning about this through the Ricky the Raindrop, water conservation, is when you're brushing your teeth, you don't need the faucet running, turn it off, turn it back on. So those seem like fairly simple things we can do if we're not doing it already. And it sounds like collectively,
when they shower, when they shave, they also have a habit of running the tap while they shave. Same story. Turn it off. You know, you don't need it running while you're having a shave.
Yeah, see, but like, I wouldn't have known that. Okay, so fellas, you can do your bit too. And it sounds like, obviously, you know, just being more mindful of when we have any water on, faucets on, or taking a shower, or even taking a bath, or even watering. You know, here in Los Angeles, you don't see many lawns anymore. You know, everyone has these succulent sort of desert gardens. You don't ever see any sprinklers. In fact, we have laws here in the city when people can actually run and water their lawns certain times of day, certain days of the week, because of the shortage. And I imagine there are elsewhere. So, wow. I don't want to look past the really amazing thing you're doing with live streaming, because to me, that's sort of where both of my passions collide. You have this amazing cause. You've sort of taken it upon yourself to embrace it and do what you can to raise awareness. And you're using technology to help you do that. You spoke about it a little bit earlier, but first off, where can people tune in to your live streaming going forward if they want to check out a past episode or a new one?
Well, most of my live streaming these days is really about the Cape Town water crisis. So there is a Facebook page called Cape Town Water Crisis. I've also curated a daily newsletter using Paperly, and that's called news.capetownwatercrisis.com. So people could subscribe to that as well, because it curates all the articles about the Cape Town water crisis.
Great. And that's news.capetownwatercrisis.com. I will put that in the comments so everyone can actually click there. And right now on the screen, for those of you interested, that is Bridgetti's Facebook page handle. So if you honestly just jump in and search Cape Town Water Crisis, you will find the page. And it's great. I had it kind of behind you, Bridgetti, as you were talking earlier, just to show people. I mean, you post pretty much every day, if not multiple times a day on there. And it's helped me educate myself in terms of this huge problem.
I do, yes. I also have a Twitter handle called CPT Water Crisis. So I use that quite extensively as well. So you can catch me on Twitter and you can catch me on Facebook, Cape Town Water Crisis. I'm available there basically every single day, all day long.
You hear that, you guys? So this is amazing, because I think, well, you say that, but I also know media have been contacting you. You're actually very in demand at the moment. What's that been like to go from live streaming your own show, your little show that's grown, to now being contacted by media, but also the fact that it sounds like you'd mentioned something about the premiere. It sounds like people are coming to you to help actually create dialogue and bring people together. What's that been like? That's a huge leap for you.
It's different, you know. It's kind of a progression that I never expected, but one that means to me that live streaming works.
That's the best endorsement ever.
It's accomplished its mission. One, it's been a great platform to educate and for people to engage on. And most of the media that has contacted me has been because they've seen my live streams. They've come across the Facebook page. So, you know, and people have watched my broadcasts. It gets very good coverage. So I'm very excited. I mean, I know that live streaming has been used in the US and in other places where there's been disasters. And I've never had experience in this before. It was something new for me. But I am enjoying every minute of the journey. It gives me a great sense of joy and accomplishment being able to do what I do. Because as I said to you, because I have depression with my chronic pain, being able to help other people in this way has literally saved me from myself. It takes the focus off my challenges in life. It helps me not focus on the things that I struggle with. Instead, joy, because I can focus on helping other people. And that for me is a win.
Well, your story is nothing short of inspiring, I think. And you're getting a question from Peter I wanted to flag. Is there a GoFundMe page set up yet? Talk about inspiring. It's sort of the next question is, you know, where can we help? Where can we tune in? Is there a place that we can support ourselves? Is there a GoFundMe page set up yet? Is that part of the mechanics, or?
We couldn't use GoFundMe because we couldn't use a US dollar account. GoFundMe, but we have set up a PayPal account, and I will post that in the comments. And what people could do is they could donate the equivalent of 5 liters of water. 5 liters of water is about 15 rands, and in US dollars, that's approximately under $3. I think it's $2 and a bit. So, you know, if people could pay the equivalent of 15 liters of water, 5 liters of water, that'd be fantastic.
Perfect. So Peter, great question. And I see your follow-up I'll ask as well. So it sounds like there isn't a GoFundMe, but there is a PayPal. We'll make sure to put that in the comments. And it sounds like if we donate about $2 and change, $2, maybe, I would just round it up, maybe $3. It sounds like that, when converted, it helps actually donate water. Is that right?
That'll be 5 liters of water. Correct. Yes.
And he has a follow-up question. Peter says, are domestic pets getting a quota of water? We've got an animal lover here.
There is actually a lady who started a Facebook page specifically for animals, so that we can ensure that animals are also going to be getting adequate water. So a lot of people are supporting that, and I will find that link and put the link into the comments as well, because that is specifically for pets.
Great. Good questions. So again, folks, if you're just joining now, I've got Bridgetti Lim Banda on talking about the Cape Town water crisis. We've got a few great questions. Thank you so much, Peter. Those are excellent questions about where people can actually check out and help and donate. So check the comments. You'll see a few prompts, PayPal account where people can donate around between $2 to $3. That's the equivalent of 5 liters. And for those of you animal lovers as well, they're not being forgotten. I've also put up on the screen, and I'll make sure to put in the comments as well, Bridgetti, your Facebook page, which again, if you're just tuning in, is Cape Town Water Crisis. Probably the easiest place people can go, right, to start, maybe to discover what all of this is about and where they can go. Is that right?
Correct. On the Facebook page. Correct.
Got it. Peter is saying he wants to interview you tonight. Do you know Peter? Do you know each other?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, look, you've got some demand. I mean, it's sort of, and I've sent you some private messages. It's been really inspiring to see your influence grow, and not to get too sort of woo-woo about it. You know, I think there are a lot of people using live streaming right now to sell things, to promote their business and essentially promote themselves. It's like, and that is perfectly fine. But what I love is that you offer something a little different into the mix, which frankly is which really demonstrates the power of social media and live streaming is the fact that you're using it for a cause and to raise awareness. So, you know, for anyone watching who is looking for a great example of how live streaming can actually go beyond just selling things, and of course people are donating, but that's not exactly why you jump on live stream every day. You're such a great example in terms of, you know, anybody can use, technology is no longer the barrier, it sounds. It sounds like anyone with time and passion can leverage tools to reach a larger audience.
Correct. And I want to stress that, you know, I have no affiliation with any political party or organization whatsoever. I act completely independent. I'm not sponsored. I do this at my own expense in my own time. So I don't have a leaning towards any specific solution or anything whatsoever because I am completely not sponsored.
Right. So your only agenda here is really to raise awareness and the fact that you are a concerned citizen. So yes, that's important to point out. So, and I'm just humbled the fact that I can actually, you know, the fact that I was able to, you know, Peter was able to come on, ask a few questions, and who knows who's going to see those comments after. You know, if I can help contribute a few more dollars going into what you're doing, I think that's going to help me sleep at night. This is inspiring for me too, because you know, I have had a lot of guests on who, you know, their business is more the conversation of the day, and it's sort of like you like I said before, you offer a little bit something a little different. Changing gears a little bit in terms of, we've talked about live streaming, we've talked about, you know, you becoming this influencer. Can you share a little bit more about kind of your journey in terms of and you might not know, you know, has this opportunity sort of opened your eyes to, are you exploring new things because of this? You know, what is on, and I imagine the water crisis is squarely in your focus, but has this whole opportunity of becoming recognized as an expert made you consider new avenues, or, you know, or not? Just curious.
For now, no. You know, the water crisis is all encompassing. It is basically, there's so much at the moment and it's happening so fast. I don't think I have the capacity to do anything else because I have to work within my limitations of what my chronic pain allows me to do. So I don't think I have the capacity to even think of anything else right now. All I can focus on is the water crisis. And I feel immensely privileged to be able to do what I do, as we discussed earlier. Having the technology to do this is amazing. I mean, there's so many people in South Africa who live stream, but they're not using software. They're going live natively.
Right.
On Facebook. So it's just one-way streaming as with traditional media. I have not seen anyone else in South Africa use it the way you and I are doing it as a talk show,
right.
As a broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
They're just using native Facebook to do one-way communication.
It's really, it's interesting. It's sort of, it sounds like it's still the frontier, like anything's possible with going live, and folks are using it, I guess, maybe according to their comfort level. Maybe they don't realize yet. Maybe you'll inspire them to launch a talk show, where they can kind of create their own channels. But I see that here in LA too. I think LA is a funny fish. It's a funny town because everyone here's an expert or everyone here's a brand. They get that very well. Whether they're an expert or not, I don't know, but they certainly embrace the technology. Everyone here's got a channel. So for folks who are maybe donating or tuning in to you, I'm curious, what is the latest going on? I remember in one of your last updates, you were talking about the premiere. You were talking about experts coming together. What's happening over the next sort of several days where you're at?
Well, there's been a shift in gears lately. Our mayor, for example, was taken off the water crisis management. And the ruling party has basically taken over leadership with regards to handling the water crisis. Certain specific people have been appointed to handle communication with regards to the water crisis. Our Premier, for example, has stepped in now that Day Zero is a reality. And there is a move towards declaring this a national disaster, because then it can set all other mechanisms in motion that will help us cope better with this. I know the Premier today, for example, has met with healthcare providers. She's met with the Department of Education. There's so many things that we may not think of, because the water crisis goes beyond just drinking water. It's going to affect every sphere of our lives. It's going to affect education. It's going to affect travel. It's going to affect business. Businesses, for example, who have a higher reliance on water, a lot of those businesses have needed to close down.
Right.
And they're having to shift gears and look for other business opportunities, for example. And then the other problem that we're also facing is sewage. I've hashtagged that toilet talk on Twitter, because it's a conversation that we need to have. We're having less and less water to put into our sewage system. So we're looking at the very real possibility of having to look at other solutions for toilets.
Right.
And we can't wait until we need to be prepared for it. And so part of my daily conversation on Twitter is toilet talk.
Which I'm sure is something you never even imagined that you would be doing, having a formal talk about toilets.
No, I mean, it's kind of strange. I was having a chuckle with a few people the other day, and I said, it's strange how toilet talk has become dinner table conversation.
Right. Who would have thought? I think that might be the title. That could be a fun book title or something like that. Yeah. And who knew that you'd be at the forefront leading these conversations? Just goes to show you you never know where the road is going to lead. Well, that's exciting. It sounds like, and you hit on something that I don't want to overlook, is the fact that there's been a change. There's been an acknowledgement that Day Zero is here. There's been a change, because I know when we first talked about it, the struggle was the fact that there was an awareness, yet action wasn't being taken. It sounds like with certain removals or certain conversations, there is no denial of what's happening, and things are starting to shift. I guess better late than never.
Correct. In terms of moving forward, there's two things we need to do. We need to, one, carry on conserving water. But conserving water on its own isn't going to help us get through the water crisis.
Right.
We also need to have water augmentation programs. And so there's two things that's going to be happening. We are going to be using groundwater, and we are going to be doing desalination. And again, being able to, having had the privilege of interviewing people who are specialists in both these fields, has been absolutely amazing, because I've learned a lot about groundwater. I've learned a lot about desalination. A lot of people, for example, didn't understand that in South Africa, water does not belong or does not belong to the local government, because that was the misconception. In reality, water resources belong to the state in South Africa, and that is managed by the Department of Water and Sanitation. And why that's important is because right now, because of the drought, originally had well points or boreholes on their property so they could water their garden. That was the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
But now people are needing to rely on well point water and groundwater for more than just their gardens. It's becoming a matter of survival.
Right. It's shifted from beautification to actual. So hence more people kind of perking up. Oh, this actually affects my survival. This is an essential need versus a cosmetic. Right.
And so a lot of people, so the Department of Water and Sanitation has now stepped in and say, and rightly so, groundwater is finite. It's not an infinite source of water. We need to use it wisely. We need to protect it.
Right.
And so a lot of people were up in arms when very recently the national government passed some legislation with regards to the use of groundwater. People would have the sense that, well, it's on my property, I paid for it. And in the case of borehole, it's a considerable investment to drill a borehole, especially if you have to go really deep to get that water. And so people feel, well, it's on my property and I should be able to do what I want to do with that water. And so being able to assist in that education of understanding how our water resources work, and that we need to be careful with what we have because we can deplete the water. And then we're in trouble. For example, we had there's one area in Cape Town, in South Africa, where the dams also ran dry. A gift of the givers went in and they drilled some boreholes, but those boreholes ran dry. So that illustrates the need for sensible use of our groundwater resources. Because that would be a problem if the boreholes ran dry.
Kind of fascinating stuff when you think about just how much people might not be aware in terms of how water gets into homes and how water gets into aquifers and what we can all do. I've just quickly put up, for those of folks joining, yes, there's actually something you can do, even if you don't live in Cape Town. We'll put a link again to the PayPal, and I just I leveled it up. I brought it up to $3, but donating around $3, even less than, can provide 5 liters of water. Bridgetti mentioned earlier, so I don't want to forget that.
So what's going to happen when we get to the point of Daisy? If they will have 200 points around the Western Cape area where people can go and collect 25 liters of water per person per day.
Which sounds totally doable. Completely. Let's see. Everyone crunch the numbers. Yeah, which will create log jams. I'm thinking about the gas crisis in the 80s here. Long lines, physically not possible to haul all that water. So it sounds like you're taking that head on, the fact that isn't a solution. And I would imagine that there is a certain amount of pressure to actually come up with an alternative. Is that right?
Well, the very first concern when it came to these 200 points for water collection was taking someone like myself with chronic pain. I cannot carry 25 liters of water.
Can anybody? How much is 25 liters? Is that, we do gallons here, but 25 liters. Water is one of the heaviest things we can carry. People don't, I think anytime you've gone hiking or camping, you immediately understand the weight of water. It's one of the heaviest things we carry.
It is pretty heavy. So my first concern was people like myself who can't carry water. And then immediately I thought of people with other disabilities, people who are elderly, people who are sick, people maybe elderly and they live in an apartment where there's no elevator. That would present problems. And so the organization called Water Shortage SA, who's got the PayPal account, very firstly is to provide that 5 liters of water to the elderly, to the infirm, to the sick. So when you're donating just over $2 or $3, know that that water is going to go specifically to people who cannot collect water, to the elderly, infirm, and sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, so yes, so 25 liters is 6.6 gallons.
Right. And any more than 1 gallon is pretty much, well, we have 2 hands too. So even if we could carry more, you know, if we could carry 6 gallons, it would be a challenge. So clearly, it's you know, day 0 approaches. It sounds like you're going to get very, very busy as day 0 approaches. It sounds like there are still major challenges to be explored and solutions to be found. What would you recommend in terms of where's the best place for us to follow? Is it your page? You know, where would you like to point folks who actually would like to take a greater interest in almost following your lead, finding out more, seeing what they can do? Is there a website you'd recommend people go to, or is it simply kind of following the news?
Well, as I said before, you know, if you go to my page called Cape Town Water Crisis, and then also the newsletter that I curate, that kind of curates everything almost that's written about the water crisis. So you can find lots of articles in. That's not just local articles, it's a mix and international articles that are written about the water crisis.
Great. And I'll put that in the comments right now, the Paperly aggregation there. And then also, folks, Cape Town Water Crisis, I put your handle back up on there too. And I'll put your Twitter as well. Bridgetti,
Twitter handle is CPT Water Crisis.
CPT Water Crisis is different. So the one on the screen, folks, is the Facebook page. We're nearing the top of the hour. Is there anything you'd like to sort of leave us with? You provided us with so much information. I think my biggest takeaway has been your journey, frankly, and to see just the power of technology giving you a platform. It sounds like, you know, it's been something that you can really lean into, given your lifestyle. You can do this from home. And yet here you are with the seat at the table in terms of being recognized for someone who is helping change the conversation. So that was my biggest takeaway. I think it's inspiring. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with before I let you go? I know your time is valuable. It's sort of creeping into the evening as well for you over in South Africa.
Yes, it is. It's almost 7 p.m. For us here in South Africa. I think, you know, the biggest message is to share this out. We need as many people as possible to know about what's happening in South Africa, because quite frankly, if we don't get this right, it's going to turn into a humanitarian crisis very, very quickly.
Yes.
And then we will require outside help. We will not be able to manage this by ourselves. So my biggest takeaway here would be to ask people to share this out so that, you know, there's greater awareness.
Got it. So you guys, our call to action from Bridgetti is to spread the word, share it out, which you've made it, you've been able to kind of boil this down, pun intended, I guess. You've been able to boil down this kind of complex issue into something which I like, which is actionable, bite-sized pieces. So for those of you kind of watching, wanting to know what you can do, we've got several things. You can donate money. You can visit the Facebook page. But it sounds like, first and foremost, let's leverage the heck out of social media and our own networks to raise awareness, to spread the word, which sounds like the biggest and best thing we can do immediately for you. Peter was he was just crunching the numbers, so I want to honor that. He was saying 25 kilograms, which is heavy. I think he was doing the math on the gallons of the water for you. So thanks, Peter, for running the numbers.
I'll get in touch with you on Messenger. We can chat offline.
Yeah, Peter, thanks for coming on and and contributing to the conversation. That I love that. If my show can just connect, I feel like that's why I'm here. So so I'll be tuning in. Bridgetti, if you don't win a Pulitzer or something, or you're not too busy hanging out with luminaries, maybe I'll have you back on when your schedule allows it, maybe in 4 or 5 months. I know you're going to be heads down focused on this issue. So folks, if you're just joining me live and have questions for Bridgetti, but maybe you weren't able to ask them, you can certainly go to her Facebook page again, which I'll link to, or you can ask me a question. I will move it straight over to Bridgetti to make sure. This is such a complex issue. I know there are a lot of questions around it. Peter's given a thumbs up. Love it. Peter, let us know, where we can tune into your interview. That would be cool too. I would definitely like to promote it as well, just to get, that's my part, kind of sending it out. So Bridgetti, thanks so much for coming on. Cape Town water crisis. I think as an Angelino, as a Californian, as someone who's been told my entire life to conserve water, I know I'm paying attention to this because it could be kind of a prediction of what other cities could face. So thank you for taking the time today to share what's going on and to update us and to share your story, because like I said, it inspires me. So any parting words before I let you go?
It's been great. Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed sharing my experience with you, and I really do hope that that we could connect again on another live stream in future.
Absolutely. Let's watch it on a live streaming screen near you. And folks, you can definitely, Bridgetti doesn't just focus on this. She manages several successful shows. Definitely tune in to her. I know her from the live streaming community, first and foremost, so a kindred spirit as well. So if you're curious just to know more about Bridgetti, definitely go to her Facebook pages and you can reach out to her there. But first and foremost, thanks so much for taking the time, Bridgetti. I'll let you sign off and get back to that very serious issue. But again, thanks so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Goodbye from Cape Town, everyone.
All right. Goodbye from Cape Town. Awesome. So again, if you have questions for Bridgetti, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this live with me, Peter. I think we had Robert on there. We've got, I think I see Amy. I think I see Nancy. I think I see a few other folks. Thank you so much for always supporting. I think I might see Christy or Gina. This was probably one of my favorite interviews because it's all about a cause. And I think the more we have folks leveraging live streaming, this is my soapbox, the more we have people leveraging live streaming to create positive change, I think this tool is in its infancy. I think we're going to see so much more magic coming from it. And Bridgetti said it herself, live streaming is a powerful tool. It's really given her a platform. So I love it. I promise to have her back on soon. For those of you who might be interested in this whole live streaming thing, it can be intimidating. For those of you who think it might be something you can leverage either for your organization or your cause, and you kind of want to try it out without spending any money or just basically investing your time, if you go to my Facebook page at the very, very top, so go to Jessica Payne Official. If you're watching me on Facebook, just refresh my page. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'll put a comment there. There's a big blue sign up button. And what that does is it puts you on my VIP mailing list, essentially to find out more about live streaming. But what you get on top of that is an ebook, which is 17 pages of strategies and tips, how to go live on Facebook in minutes. So for free, you can use your smartphone. And then I also have a how-to video to show you how to do it. So this has been a fun tool to show people, if you're a little intimidated, if you want to try the live streaming thing, if you need a little bit of a framework, download this, use it. You can be live in minutes. And like Bridgetti said, you can actually, it's all about having a framework, using it more than just a casual tool. So whether you want to create your own talk show or maybe just familiarize yourself with the tool, it's a great thing to do. So again, hit the blue button at the top of my Facebook page and sign up just to try it out. And if you do, let me know. I've had a lot of positive feedback from it. So it's free. You don't have to do anything. Just you get on my list, and then you'll get more freebies down the line. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to let you go. It was a powerful interview. Again, Bridgetti Lim Banda from South Africa. Such a cool global tool. joined us today. I'll put a little recap in the summary. Thanks for watching live. Thanks for watching me on the replay. Any questions, give me a shout out. I'll see you next week at 8 a.m. Pacific, which is 11 a.m. Eastern, do the math, with my next show. So thanks for watching Jessica Payne Live. As I always like to say, real is greater than perfect. Stop chasing that perfection. Just be yourself. Bridgetti is a beautiful example of that. Real is greater than perfect. Just focus on being yourself, creating positive change. And finally, my PSA that I promise to give at the end of every episode: don't live stream and drive. It is actually happening. It's a trend I'm seeing. If you have something important to say, pull over, wait till you get to your destination. The world needs you and your message. So don't live stream and drive. I can't believe I have to say that, but I do. All right, my friends, happy live streaming. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon. I'll see you next week. All right, bye, guys. Bye, Peter. Bye, Robert. Bye, Nancy. Bye, Amy. Bye, Christy. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
The podcast you just heard was recorded with Anchor. If you want to make your own, download the Android or iOS app completely free from anchor.fm/podcast. That's anchor.fm/podcast.